another thing to be fearful of. And I love this idea of what you're saying around transforming your thoughts, because I've definitely, the more and more I've studied books, the more and more I've read and I've thought, I've discovered that all of our failure and success in life is based on our most repeated thought. And one of my biggest questions to most people I meet now is, what is your most repeated thought? And most people don't know the answer because they're not aware, in your words. And a lot of people who do know will say it's something like, I'm not good enough. I don't like the way I look. I am ugly. Whatever else it may be for them, right? And so we're either aware and it's negative, or we're unaware because it's so subconscious. And I've started to recognize that most of the thoughts we have are not that different. They're the same thought that comes in a different voice, a different tone, a different vocabulary, a different language, but it's the same repetition.
Yeah.
And so I've started to really think about what's my most repeated thought,
Yeah.
and how can I be more, as you are saying, how can I be more selective about it, and how can I choose it more effectively rather than just let it be something that's kind of just coming up.
Yeah. And it's like, don't identify with your thoughts. You know, like one of the things that, I don't remember where I heard it before, but the way I like to think about it, and I've heard you say before, even like a lot of people say like, oh, I struggle with meditating. And I've heard you say before where it's not about mastering your thoughts. It's not about making your thoughts go away. It's just becoming aware of your thoughts a little bit more. Because when we close our eyes, you know, about 60% of our brain is visual. For visual things to see. So when we close our eyes, it kind of turns off a lot of parts. And so thoughts usually come up and we become aware of those. Like one of the things that I've been doing a lot recently is like trying to be in as much silence as possible. Like I'm just trying to be as much silence as I possibly can, because I feel like that's where a lot of my awarenesses and a lot of my answers come from. And so when you sit there, and the analogy that I love when you start thinking of your thoughts is it's like sitting on the edge of a mountain, and down below there's just a road going that you're looking at. And sitting on the edge of the mountain is like meditating or just sitting in silence and just, you know, looking at your thoughts. And you can watch the cars go by, the thoughts that go by, and not have to be attached to them. You don't find yourself getting sucked into the red car that just went by. You just watch the cars go by. And that's the way that I try to see my thoughts, which is, okay, I'm gonna watch them go by. I'm not gonna connect to them, but I can look at them and be like, is this thought, which, you know, about 90% of our thoughts are the same as yesterday, is this thought helping me in trying to get to where I wanna be in life? Or is this thought holding me back from trying to get to where I want to be in life? And if it's helping me, then I want to strengthen it. If it's not helping me, well then, hey, as that guy on the podcast said, I can't control my first thought, but I control my second. So what would I prefer my second thought to be?
Yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head. Like that's what it is for me. It's whether you've understood that you're not your thoughts or not, that can be quite hard for people because I think we're so close to them. But even if you can practice distance through meditation or mindfulness, the real win is being able to look at a thought and say, is it good for me?
Yeah.
Or is it not helpful? Like you just said, like, I think that is the wisdom of it, that can I evaluate everything that's repetitive in my mind and ask myself, is this useful? Is it helpful? Is it allowing me to move in the direction I want? Because chances are a lot of what we're saying is actually doing the complete opposite. And then you go, oh, wait a minute, even though it's interesting, and even though I could get lost in it, I don't want to waste time. And therefore, I'll move in the other direction. You talk about procrastination in this book. And that, again, going back to your earlier title, is a block against the psychology of action.
Yeah.
And we all have a friend, or maybe we are that friend, that constantly puts things off. We postpone, we procrastinate, we say, I'll do it another year. I want to launch a podcast. Someone's been saying that for 2 years. There's someone listening right now who wants to start an Instagram page. They put it off for 6 months. There's someone listening who's like, oh, I missed out on the Clubhouse thing, and then I missed out on the TikTok thing, and now I'm missing out on whatever the next thing is. And we procrastinate, hoping that one day will come. What have you learned about procrastination through your research when you were writing the book that has helped people break that cycle? Because it seems to apply to so many of our lives.
I mean, the thing about it is this, I always like to be like very extreme in examples, because if we can go extreme, then it makes a lot of sense. But I always tell people like, and I always say it like, hey, I've given this when I used to give a lot of speeches. I would be in front of people and I'd say, hey, what's the chance of you making $1 million this year? Give me numbers. And everyone's like 0%, 0%, 0%. 1%, there's always 1%, it's like 5, and that's like the most it'll get to. And I said, okay, I'm gonna give you the most extreme example, but I just wanna see what happens, okay? What's the percentage chance of you making $1 million this year, legally, and if you don't, everyone that you love dies? And everyone's like 100%, 100%, 1,000, 1,000%. I said, what changed? The goal didn't change. The time frame didn't change. Why you're doing it changed. Would you wake up in the morning if everyone that you love's life depended on it and be like, yeah, well, maybe I should scroll on TikTok for a little while?